Holy smokes. Been wanting to play one of these freaking amps for so long. They're so good. Like, I was like, as soon as I went to Sweetwater Gear Fest and they had like all these vendors set up for us to check out all these cool things. Well, me, in my mind, I'm like, I want to see a few things. I want to see Marshall. I want to see Gibson. I want to see Universal Audio. I had like 4 things in mind, but the like height of what I wanted to like, my just top of the pyramid was, I was like, I've got to be able to try one of these mini studio Plexi heads that I've been hearing about. My buddy Kenny Greenberg was telling me about. You know, he tours with Kenny Chesney. He takes that thing on the road for a stadium tour. I'm like, okay, well, it works on the road. Sounds killer on like 1,000 YouTube clips I've seen. So is this thing as cool as everybody says it is? And my God Almighty in heaven, yes, yes it is. I'm Brett Papa and welcome to another video. In today's video, obviously we are going to go and try to like do some Hendrix and then maybe some Van Halen tones out of this thing. It's gonna be a little bit quicker. The idea is can we get this thing close, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plug straight into the head, into a little Boss GE7 EQ. This one's modified by XTS, Xact Tone Solutions out of Nashville. It's a little bit more guitar-centric than the typical Boss, but the typical Boss pedal would work great. Back in the day, back on Van Halen 1, you know, those albums, Eddie played into a 100-watt Plexi with an MXR 10-band EQ, which is even cooler, but I don't have one of those. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna do a little delay and reverb and post and EQ just a touch like they would in a studio. Now that being said, the tones that just come straight out of this thing are incredible, right? So here's the amp just by itself. I got the channels jumped. I'll show you all the settings and all that stuff. And then on the Boss EQ, when I add it, right, without it. So it just hits the front of the amp a little bit harder. You know, just on a side note, everybody buys, you know, overdrives and distortion pedals and all this stuff, and they're fantastic. I've got too many to name myself, but like a EQ pedal, like the Boss EQ pedal, is oftentimes like the coolest overdrive ever made. You boost the gain on it a little bit, and it's like the ultimate overdrive pedal. You can make it sound like whatever you want. Okay, so that's my 2 cents, but Eddie did it, so I'm gonna do it. And then we're gonna add a little EQ in post, just to get as close as we can, like they would have in a studio. Whole point being that this little 20-watt beast, if you're gonna record, you can get insanely good tones out of it. I know lots of people who actually use this thing in the studio with fantastic results. You know, it's way cheaper than a $5,000 plus 100-watt Plexi from back in the day. It sounds amazing. And it's 20 watts, so you don't have to blow out like 37 city blocks people's hearing, you know, if you crank it on 10. I don't even have it on 10. I didn't even do the whole roll Plexi thing like everybody does. This is just, I'll show you the knobs, but I mean, I don't even have the gain halfway. Well, halfway on one of them, and then, you know, just straight up on the other. So I guess I do have more than that. Anyways, also subscribe, click the bell to be notified. I got so much freaking cool stuff coming up. You know, I've recorded some bands, there's lessons, there's other interviews with amazing world-class players. Make sure to subscribe, click the bell to be notified. Also check out down below, brettpapa.com is what funds everything. I'm gonna play some Hendrix later. Got a killer Hendrix course to check out too. I love it. I love Hendrix and I love Van Halen, so here we are. Okay, so the tone. What you kind of want to be able to do is get that stringy thing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do like a reverse V curve on the EQ and not even boost it very much. What you want to get is Eddie had like a really awesome stringy top end. If you listen to the isolated tracks by themselves, sometimes it's like, whoa, that's a lot of treble, but it's that bite and stuff that really cuts, right? Because it was just a 3-piece. And so the bass covered up all that other territory. And so there was just this biting, wicked, you know, guitar tone, right? So that's that. And when I add the EQ, so you can do like that. You get all those cool harmonics. Got my pinky, I broke it. It's still like, I don't want to work yet. It's kind of crooked. I don't know. I jacked it up doing jujitsu. Oh man, all right, the life of a guitar player. So, like check this out, right? Oh. Anyways, you get the point. So it really gets that old school kind of Van Halen thing, right? With all right, now, the settings are really basic. I have the presence on 4, the bass on 8. Now, I typically, if it was a big 100-watt head, I would have the bass more like around 3. But this needs a little bit of that bottom end brought in. It wouldn't so much if I was playing with a band, but kind of in the room on its own, I found I needed to have a little bit of bass. Mid is on 6, treble is 7. The treble, you know, volume 1 is on about 11. And I shouldn't say 11, I should say 5. I've been doing numbers. Okay, and then the loudness, which is the kind of the bass channel, would be on 6. And then I have the channels jumped together. Again, that gets me. With the EQ. Okay, will it Hendrix? Let's find out, shall we? Okay, so one of the most important questions to me, will it Hendrix? Yes, it totally freaking Hendrixizes the sound. It's so good. One of my favorite Hendrix tones ever is Bold as Love. So to get this sound, I had to manipulate the knobs, which is a big step for me. I hardly ever change the knobs of my amp. But being here in town, people have got me like, dude, why don't you ever twist the knobs in your amp? I'm like, because it already sounds great. Don't touch it. It's a big step for me. So I changed the settings a little bit. We got presence on like just below 5. We got bass at about 8 because we need a little bit more roundness to the sound, you know, versus Van Halen. The middle is like 7 3/4. Treble is just below 2. The high treble is right at 2 with loudness 1. Loudness 2 or the normal channel would be at about 7, okay? So you get this by itself. Real round, warm sound. Now, total secret, Hendrix secret, if you didn't know, take a fuzz, set it up, you know, give yourself a little bit more high end, a little fuzz, not like spoon hitting mashed potatoes where it like breaks up like fuzz. You want it to retain a little bit of, you know, togetherness, right? So I did crank the output up. This is a Iridium fuzz by Xact Tone Solutions, just one of the best fuzzes ever. They don't make them anymore, but if you can find one, buy it right now. Best fuzz ever. And then the color knob would be like, you know, I don't know, what would be like 3 o'clock or 3:15. And then the fuzz isn't quite at 9 o'clock. Okay, so with that, check it out. Here's by itself. Add it. Now it's a lot, right? But roll that volume down. Yeah, right about there. Then you can roll the fuzz up and then you have your... It just full freaking Hendrix awesomeness. I was so stoked when I heard this. I was like, God, that sounds so good. And it's, again, it's not a 100-watt head. It's not 5. You know, I'm going to say this too. The new Marshall hand-wired head, the 100-watt head, sounds incredible. It like really does sound good. I've heard I used to work in the amp business, so I've heard 100 Plexis. It sounds amazing. If you can use something that's that loud, you know, a 100-watt head, like, can you play that anywhere? No, you can't. But if you had like an aux or something, or a studio environment or whatever, it does really sound good. It sounds a little bit bigger, but man, for 20 watts, I can't believe how big and warm this thing actually sounds. I mean, I'm freaking just sold. That Van Halen is one of the best Van Halen tones I've ever got in my life. And now that it can do Hendrix really well, and it just does straight up rock and roll really good. And then also, like, if I change pedals, and I put in this, sorry for my labs. Okay, so this is a Barber LTD pedal. It's a little bit more mid-centric, not quite Tube Screamer, but, you know, kind of floating in those waters a little bit. I way prefer this to a Tube Screamer. There's a fly in here somewhere, so if it's on the camera and it lands on my face or whatever, just ignore it. But it adds a cool mid-range to it. So, like, can you get close to Stevie Ray-ish? I don't know. Let's find out. So, that gets us kind of that scooped sound, but it also, to have that scoop sound, you need a little bit of that mid thrown back in there and a little top end. So. Finger hurts. Holy moly, what if you cranked it up a little gain? A little more boost, a little more topping. Now listen to just the rock tone. Check this out. God, it's freaking great. Watch it roll down the volume. I mean, I don't know what else you want at a gig. Like, to me, you know, some people are Fender people. And yeah, I love you too. But man, there's something about Marshall-y tones that you could actually use and that you can actually turn up at a gig. Man, there's just something about it. So let's see. What about a telly? The telly tone is what actually really sold me, because you can plug straight in, and like if you had like a delay and verb in the loop, which the loop is great, right? And you don't have a loop in a vintage Plexi. But the loop, I think the new hand-wired ones actually do though, which is another humongous selling point, because that's what the effects want to be, right? I say that, but Van Halen's one of my favorite tones ever, and his effects are in the front. Anyways. Now this, I could actually back down the bass a little bit again, turn up the treble a hair, maybe give us a little bit more on the treble. Where is that? Where is that again? I don't know about you boys and girls, but man, to me, for 20 watts of pure heaven, God, I love this thing. I've been playing with it for about 2 days, totally sold. Like it will be in the rotation 100%. I actually compared it to my other Marshall, which I absolutely love. It's a 50 watt JMP 74. I think I may like it even better. Like, I was like, wow, I played them back to back. And I was like, ooh, that's a close call. A lot more affordable. So if you want that really good vintage tone, man, I swear, it's awesome. Check it out for sure. Go play it. Obviously, before you buy anything, before you take my word for, you know, gospel truth or anything like that, always, 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 if you can, go play it in a store. Take your guitar. Make sure you're able to play it somewhere where you can crank it up and hear what it's really going to sound like. A lot of these amps, tube amps especially, unless you're able to get it to that sweet spot of the amp, you're really missing out on what it really does sound like and what it feels like and what it really does. A lot of master volume amps are great these days. You know, like when I had a bunch of Friedmans and stuff like that, they're so awesome. But even those, when you crank the back end up, it's like, oh, that's what I wanted. So to be able to do that, this also, if 20 watts is too loud, switches to 5 watts, right? Sounds great. So 20 watts or 5 watts, depending on your situation. People think 5 watts isn't loud. 5 watts can be loud. It can definitely keep up with the drum set. If you don't need clean headroom, like crystal clean, you know, church style stuff, 5 watts cranked up is awesome. So switches down to 5 watts as well, 20 watts. Check it out for sure. I think it's called the SV20, I think, Studio, Marshall Studio, just Marshall Studio series. The Jubilee, holy moly, that sounds. I played the 100 watt Jubilee and the Studio Series Jubilee. I couldn't decide which one I liked better. They both sound amazing. They all sound, this whole series, the 800 too, my gosh. I got maybe some coming from Marshall. I asked them if I could do some demos, so they might send out those other 2 amps. If so, I will 100% do that. There's a great guy, Studio Rats. It's 2 guys, I think, but he does really good demos on these. Who else? There's a bunch. Like every demo I've heard of this thing, I was like, God, that sounds really good. God, that sounds really good. God, that sounds really good. And so just, you know, check out this demo and then check out some of the other ones. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have one, let me know how you like it and how it's held up through your gigs and all that other stuff. I'd be really interested to know. Other than that, you guys are amazing. If you're into the Hendrix kind of stuff, make sure you check out brettpapa.com. I got a whole course on how to play like Hendrix and how to implement his style into your own. So if that's something that appeals to you, that's one of the things that funds this whole thing here. Also, the yearly membership gets all of my courses. We're about 1,100 videos. I got stuff from me, Tim Pierce, Corey Congilio, Jeff McErlane, whole bunch of stuff in there. There's also members only content in there that you can't get anywhere else. And I'm gonna be firing back up the live streams probably once every other week again too, so you can get more personalized, customized answers, all that stuff. And if you got any questions, leave a comment down below. Other than that, make sure you subscribe, click the bell to be notified when the new videos coming out. I got a whole bunch of new stuff coming out really soon. You guys are amazing. Thank you for the continued support. Catch you next time.